Rick commands the team to hold their formation within the assigned territory as the convoy surges forward. He glances at the driver. "I'm leaving the rest to you." But a check of the side mirror confirms his suspicions they're being tailed. Multiple vehicles from rival guilds are closing in fast. Rick stares ahead, eyes narrowing. Subtlety is no longer an option. The pursuers aren't even trying to be discreet. Beside him, the girl raises a finger, summoning a flicker of flame. She's ready to torch them, but Rick hesitates. Why haven't they fired yet? He turns, scanning for answers. That's when he spots it. They're hailing them on the official disaster control frequency. Rick snatches the radio. "I doubt we have anything to discuss," he snaps. On the other end, a long-haired man holds his transceiver, voice calm. "We just want a word." The stranger presses. "Just tell us where you're headed." Rick tightens his grip on the device. It's clearly a trap, and their destination is none of their business. Fed up, Rick tosses the radio aside. He runs a hand through his hair. Their persistence makes no sense, and he knows this little chase will come back to haunt them. Fists clenching, anger bubbles up. These guilds shouldn't be allowed to shadow them like this. Someone isn't doing their job. They're just dead weight. He turns to the driver. "Did you turn that thing back on?" The driver shoves the radio into the glove box. In the mirror, the swarm of cars reflects ominously. Rick grabs the receiver one last time. "You really planning to jump ship like this?" Rick asks. The driver grips the wheel, eyes on the road. "I know how it looks. But this was always the plan. I'm defecting to your side. Just hope there's a spot for me in your guild." Rick weighs the device in his hand. "That's all you want?" The driver keeps his eyes forward. "That, and you owe me dinner when we survive this." Ahead, the sky bleeds into a crimson nightmare over the highway. He slams the accelerator. The car lurches, engine roaring. "Hang on, they're trying to kill us." They tear down the road at breakneck speed. The driver grins, adrenaline spiking. This is what he lives for. He yanks the wheel, sending the car into a hard drift. They have to outrun the pack. He flicks on the high beams, blinding the lurking monsters in the shadows. Finally, the car screeches to a halt, and he steps out. He glances sideways, shaken. "Boss, maybe don't do that while I'm driving." Ignoring him, Rick starts chugging potions. The driver points a thumb at himself. "I'm from a top-tier guild, you know. If it wasn't for me and my armored rides, you'd all be corpses right now." Rick slides a mask over his face. "Save the bragging. Not the time." The driver's jaw drops, a scream tearing from his throat. Looming beside them is a massive beast. Rick pulls up his hood, pivoting to face the threat. It's go time. He glances back, his weapon is still in the car, and the convoy is right behind him. Red fog swallows the buildings around them. Rick shoots the driver a thumbs up. "Nice parking. You did good." The driver blinks, dazzled by a sudden flash. It feels like he's walked onto a movie set. Nearby, the girl looks up, eyes widening at the light. She summons a magic barrier to shield them. Meanwhile, Rick grabs the creature by its collar, his gaze turning icy. Time for a little heart-to-heart. The monster looks away, feigning ignorance. Rick shakes him violently. "You think this is a joke?" The horizon glows with a sinister scarlet light, the disaster of the red eye, the very source of the toxic fog. Rick stares him down. "Don't hide anything. Not now." The creature slumps, defeated. "I'll tell you everything," he rasps. Flashback. We see him sitting by a withered tree. His people were on the brink of extinction. Their world was crumbling. Every day, their numbers dropped. Just a few thousand souls left alive. Desperate, he and his brother turned to the blue sphere's portals to other dimensions seeking salvation. Hand in hand, they stepped through the void, wandering endlessly in search of a new home. But the void held terrors. A parasitic demon attacked its smiling face, twisted and cruel, hijacking the body and crushing the will of its host. They reached for each other in the dark. Hunted by demons, he and his brother had no choice but to flee to Earth. But at the dimensional border, they were ambushed. Separated in the chaos, the parasite finally took full control. Above them swirls a red vortex, like a giant, unblinking eye. Rick points at the haze. "What is this fog for?" The creature looks down. "It's terraforming," he confesses. "Changing Earth's atmosphere to match our homeworld." Rick goes cold. "So you save your own skins by wiping us out?" Rick asks. The girl holds the magic shield steady as the monster murmurs an apology. The creature clenches a fist. "My brother and I. We altered our bodies. We had to adapt to survive the extremes. Without this fog, my species dies." He bows low before Rick. "And this planet, it's the most habitable place we've ever found." Rick exhales slowly. "It's a war for survival, his species against theirs." The monster lifts its head, eyes pleading. Rick looks into the mist, a plan forming. If he can alter the fog, make it harmless to humans, then everything changes. To purge the corruption and banish that vile red hue, the beast offered a desperate bargain. Land. A territory of their own. It promised a sanctuary for their families, a safe haven rent-free for a year. The white-haired man covered his face, tears streaming down his cheeks at the mere hope of a home where they could live as a family. Rick watched him, then scanned his team, snapping back to reality. This wasn't some daytime soap opera. He looked away, calculating. They had to fly. Now. Before the trap sprung, suddenly, massive red tentacles erupted from the ground. The monster thrashed violently. Rick and his squad huddled beneath the shimmer of a green defensive barrier. Rick glared at the creature. "Fall back!" he roared. But the order came too late. A heavy blow sent the protagonist flying through the air. He skidded to a halt, eyes locked forward. "I thought your barrier kept them out." The girl shot back. "I said it repels most times of them, not all." Rick turned, realizing the truth. A parasitic demon had hijacked the creature's mind. "Didn't I kill that thing last time?" The answer was grim. This was a new one. It must have tracked them from Earth, crossing the dimensional rift to hunt them down. Rick spun around. "Did you lead them right to us?" The man stammered, begging for forgiveness, swearing he didn't know. Suddenly, the protagonist's eyes went wide. In a blur of motion, he severed the monster's tentacles. Rick's expression darkened. "We're leaving. Move out. Fast." A tentaculum blocking their path, a low-tier beast born from the red fog. Hacking it apart was useless. It would regenerate endlessly until its core was crushed. Dealing with it would be a headache. The girl groaned. "I only got 3 bites into my sandwich before this mess started." She began channeling fire to incinerate the beast, but as the car sped up, Rick grabbed her arm. "Don't! Burn it! And it releases a lethal poison gas." Someone shouted from the back. "Then what do we do?" "It's still chasing us." Inside the speeding vehicle, the protagonist made a snap decision. Manhwa Bridge is collapsed. We're taking the Songsan Bridge instead. The driver looked terrified, but Rick grinned, eyes manic. "I've got a plan. Ignore the monsters. Just stomp on the gas." The ruined cityscape rushed into view. The driver nodded, knuckles white on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. "The road is wrecked," the man warned. "We'll break an axle at this speed." The protagonist didn't blink. "Do not slow down. Put your gas masks on. I'm opening the hatch." Rick looked at his teammate. "Charlie, cover me." The guy flashed a confident grin. "On it." Rick smirked. "Showtime." He scrambled toward the roof of the moving car. Mana surged, glowing intensely around his hand. "Damn it," the hero muttered, bracing himself. "Just keep driving." "Trust me," the driver yelled back. "I'm not stopping." A blinding beam of pure energy exploded from Rick's palm. The car launched into the air, vaulting over the broken bridge. The monster was left stranded on the other side. The girl's eyes popped wide. "I haven't had that much excitement since. Well, ever." Rick slumped back in his seat. "What are we riding on? Pure luck." "Take a minute to breathe," the man said. But the monster was already moving, seeking a way across. Rick took charge. "We need to cross the bridge before it catches up." But then, a massive jaw opened wide. Rumors spoke of a dangerous guardian living here. They had hoped it was just a myth. It wasn't. The monster reared its head, revealing a gaping pit on its tongue. It had been lying in wait. The ancient snake rose from the depths, a beast that usually dwelled in the water, indifferent to the sounds of humans. Sometimes it even preyed on other monsters, but no one had ever tamed it. It was reacting to the parasitic demon chasing them. The car accelerated, the engine screaming. "It looks distracted," someone noted. "Let it fight the others." Rick glanced sideways, eyes narrowing. "No. It is time to go fishing." The team looked confused. "We're stopping to eat fish?" Rick shook his head. "Not that kind of fishing." The ancient snake towered above the water. The protagonist watched closely. Looks like the snake won the brawl. The beast's scales shimmered, but it was heavily battered from the fight. "We can take it," Rick decided. He leaped up, his weapon glowing with lethal energy. The hero slammed into the giant snake. The monster twisted its head, screeching in pain. Rick shouted, "Throw me the rope." "Incoming." The guy hurled the coil forward. The girl snatched it from the air, swinging it with precision. "Catch this," she yelled. Rick extended his hand as the snake reared back, roaring in defiance. Lily looked at the hero, panic in her eyes. "Are you still alive?" Rick gritted his teeth. "I've got this." Rick frowned, focusing. "Give me the slack." He lashed the rope around his weapon. "Now, pull." Mana flared around the guy as he hauled on the line. "I got you." The snake stared down, confused by the resistance. Charlie strained against the weight. "I can't hold it alone forever." Rick gripped his weapon. That's enough. He struck the snake again. Rays of light erupted around Rick. Hold it steady. The snake opened its massive maw. The ancient snake was a powerhouse, but its skull was brittle. The guy held the rope with everything he had. Asterisk, don't let go. Asterisk, he told himself. A bright beam locked onto the monster. Rick only needed one clean shot to pierce the skull. With the massive serpent finally subdued, it is time to finish the job. Taking down a beast of this magnitude requires careful handling. This victory brings Rick one step closer to his promotion, and with the transport secure and the loot accounted for, the team prepares to move out. But Rick notices something off. Lily has gone unusually quiet, and when he offers her food, usually her favorite thing, she refuses. He eyes her suspiciously, knowing that look all too well, and demands she spill the beans immediately on what she is hiding. He orders her to hand it over, and reluctantly, Lily reveals her prize, a massive egg she frowns at while trying to hide it. Rick cannot believe it. She stole a boss monster's egg, and he asks what on earth she plans to do with contraband like that. Clutching the egg tightly, the girl declares she is going to raise it, proudly announcing she has even picked out a name already. Rick points out the obvious logistical nightmare, asking where she plans to keep it, and reminding her that a beast like that needs to be fed. He makes it clear that he will not help her babysit, but Lily just shrugs, completely unbothered by his refusal. She insists it will live in her room and share her fried chicken, causing Rick to massage his temples at the thought of another headache. Though Lily swears snakes are easy to raise. Before he can argue further, a red portal tears open the sky, and a violent whirlwind descends, birthing a monstrosity from the void. The zombie stares at the chaos, his voice dropping as he recognizes the energy signature. This is his brother's handiwork. He confirms Rick's suspicion with wide eyes, explaining that their family powers differ significantly. While he controls the earth, his brother commands the flora and fauna, but right now, his brother is being puppeted by a parasitic demon. A blinding light pulses from the creature, and the team realizes the brother is in immense pain, forced to unleash this destruction against his will. Suddenly, a swarm of insects bursts from the tree line, and Rick snaps into combat mode, ordering everyone to brace for impact. The team does not hesitate. Fists clenched and weapons drawn, they charge headfirst into the horde of monsters. Mid-battle, Rick swings his weapon but senses something fishy as the zombie charges the front lines recklessly. The monsters are ignoring everyone else and targeting only the zombie, which makes no sense since he no longer possesses his rune. Rick realizes the truth. They do not want to kill him. They want to capture him to amplify the toxicity of the red fog. It is a strategic play. The more monsters dwelling within the red fog, the harder the battle becomes for the heroes. It reminds Rick of their old life, a tactic used to conquer lands by overwhelming them with environment-boosted armies. The zombie apologizes for dragging them into this family mess, but Rick waves his weapon dismissively, assuring him it is fine. Rick holds no grudge, but he does have one condition. If they survive this, he wants the brother's rune. The zombie grins, agreeing to give him anything if he saves his brother, and Rick promises to even teach him how to wield the power properly later. With the deal struck, they turn their attention to the boss, engaging the tree monster in a fierce skirmish. They discover the tree is shielded by a dense wall of fog, and any damage they inflict is instantly healed as the tree absorbs the surrounding mist. The plan is set. Lily will act as the tank to draw the tree's aggro, creating an opening for the others. While she distracts it, Terry will seal the Eye of Disaster to cut off the fog. Lily agrees, but only on the condition of a massive feast upon their return. She demands a fried chicken party, and as a flame spirit manifests, a massive avatar appears behind the girl. Hank smirks, noting that the tree monster has been completely fooled into thinking Lily is a giant titan. The fire spirit wastes no energy, clenching his fist and launching a devastating strike against the tree's trunk. Rick looks up at the towering enemy, realizing he needs altitude to make his move. He signals the zombie, who nods in understanding, and Rick steps into his ally's hands to be launched. With a grunt of exertion, the zombie hurls him skyward. Rick activates invisibility mid-air, followed by a magic shield for protection. Hovering near the target, Rick shouts to Terry, asking how long it will take to seal the Eye of Disaster. Terry extends his hand to cast the spell, but a backlash of energy hits him, and he realizes with horror that he cannot stop the fog. The Parasite Demon has rewritten the rules, locking the mechanism so the red fog cannot be simply dispelled. Rick demands a fix, but Terry warns it would take hours to bypass the lock, and they are out of time as tentacles swarm towards them. It looks like a total failure. Rick swings his weapon in frustration, realizing their primary plan to seal the eye has collapsed. If they cannot stop the fog, the tree will keep healing indefinitely, and they are stuck in a losing stalemate. Rick's mind races for a backup plan, and he asks if they can reverse the flow. Can they force the fog to expand and overfeed the monster? Terry confirms it is possible to overload it, and Rick screams for him to hurry up and do it now. Down below, Lily hangs her head, her stamina draining rapidly as she struggles to hold back the giant tree. Rick calls out to her for one last push, promising that if she holds on, she can eat all the chicken she wants when this is over. She didn't just eat a whole chicken, she demolished the entire buffet. Watching her, he made a mental note. Next time, he really needs to teach her how to conserve energy instead of burning through calories like a furnace. Lily frowned, her voice sharp. We had a deal. But there's no time to argue. The red fog is spreading aggressively, and word on the street is that the neutralization plan actually worked. He added a filtration layer, rendering the deadly mist harmless for the squad. Grabbing Kiri, the hero barks out orders. That's it, we're moving. Jump. Now. The spirit manifests, stretching a massive hand forward and hoisting them up. The girl screams as they launch into the air. Flames roar to life, engulfing the corrupted tree. The creature screams in agony. Glancing sideways, the protagonist nods. Thanks. The girl smirks back. Consider us even. As they watch the intense battle unfold, the red fog swirls around them. It's often said that gluttony is bad for your health. But right now, survival is the only appetite that matters. They brace themselves. Even a child could see where this was going. The tree's grotesque insides are exposed. There. To the left. We're almost there. Kiri points ahead, desperation in his voice. Here. Rick grimaces. The internal environment of this monster is just as repulsive as the outside. Pushing forward, the hero senses a familiar energy. I can feel it. Sigrid is here. His eyes lock onto a pulsating mass. That cocoon looks like the main body. Rick frowns. All right. We're pulling him out of that thing. The girl looks skeptical. How? And what if? She stares ahead, the unsaid fear hanging in the air. If something goes wrong, his brother suffers the consequences. Rick glances at his teammate. Kiri, do you know exactly where your brother is inside that mess? Kiri hesitates, panic flaring. I don't know for sure. He freezes, feeling useless. Rick draws his weapon, his expression hardening. Then we have no choice. We leave it to chance. Kiri panics. Wait! What are you doing? What if you seriously wound Sigrid? Rick locks eyes with him. Then I'll just have to make sure the wound isn't serious. But it's not that simple. Kiri grabs his arm, shaking. What are you saying? If you don't let go, Rick warns, his voice low and dangerous, there is zero chance I can make this cut precise. And then we'll be in real trouble. Watching the standoff, the girl asks, do we really need to cut the cocoon? It's a parasite demon cocoon, Rick replies, his tone leaving no room for debate. We have to. Kiri asks what she's planning, but Rick is already calculating. Looking away, he thinks, asterisk. Actually, this is a good idea. Another achievement for my track record wouldn't hurt. Asterisk. Asterisk. It'll help with that guild promotion. Asterisk. He stares at the cocoon. Funny, isn't it? We have to use growth magic on our enemies now. We can't just sit here and wait for it to hatch naturally. A mystical glow surrounds the girl as she casts the spell. Beams of light strike the cocoon, accelerating the process. Something stirs within. Kiri watches in shock as the surface tears open. A monstrous insectoid creature crawls out from the sludge. Seeing his brother trapped in the beast, Kiri screams. Rick stands his ground, shouting, "Let him down, now!" Kiri nods, tears in his eyes. Understood. He stretches his arms out, channeling his power. Rick looks away as a piercing scream echoes through the chamber. He frowns. This moth or whatever it is vulnerable right now, Rick analyzes. It just hatched. It's weak. I need it to stay perfectly still. That's the only way this works. Catching the falling body, Rick barks, "Grab your brother." Kiri rushes forward, embracing Sigrid. "Thank you. Thank you." The girl smiles, wiping sweat from her brow. "So, you changed your mind about killing the bug?" Rick replies, "We need to study the parasite demons. We can't risk another infiltration on Earth." Rick preps a syringe, quickly calculating the dosage. "I need to knock this thing out cold. Put it to sleep." Rick frowns, turning to his team. "Find a truck, something with a lot of cargo space. Bring it here." His teammate nods approvingly. Rick scans the area. "And make sure it's secure. We need something heavy-duty." The aftermath of the monster wave is lucrative. This catastrophe left behind treasures, an ancient serpent, remains of a tentaculum, the carcass of a parasite demon, and 3,000 survivors of the Laura race who will help rebuild the city. The protagonist grins. Asterisk. "I'm definitely going to need that nameplate I ordered for my new office." Asterisk. As the convoy parks on the road, Rick shouts, "Check the bindings again. Is that mouth tied shut?" "It's tight," Kiri yells back, but then Rick notices something wrong. Wait, it looks like your brother's suppression power just wore off. Suddenly, the beast snaps awake. It leaps into the air, wings beating furiously. Someone screams, "What is that?" Rick scowls. A real demon. A blue energy beam tears through the air, but the moth twists, deftly dodging the attack. Rushing forward, the protagonist shouts, "I knew it would dodge." He freezes, mind racing. Asterisk. I can't use the hand cannon here. Asterisk. Asterisk. The distance is too great, and throwing a weapon won't work. Asterisk. He hesitates. Asterisk. Should I try it? Asterisk. A brilliant glow envelops his sword. Rick grits his teeth. Never thought I'd have to resort to this again. He shifts his stance. Marine martial arts, second form. The monster looks almost surprised. The moth tries to evade, but it's too late. Rick's sword flies forward with impossible speed. The impact is dead center. The monster crashes to the ground. Kiri stares, wide-eyed. Your sword. It flew away. Did you catch it? Rick asks, a confident smile playing on his lips. Yeah, he answers himself. He catches the returning blade, collapsing onto the ground. Asterisk. I wasted all my energy on that one move. Asterisk. Rick frowns, breathing heavily. Asterisk. But it was worth it. The second stage is no joke. Asterisk. He recalls the Marine Martial Arts Manual. Asterisk. It never mentioned a third stage. Maybe I should push my luck and take the risk next time. Asterisk. Time to visit Miriam. On the wall, a news broadcast plays. Asterisk. Very soon. We will make contact with the king from another dimension. Asterisk. Asterisk. Currently, we only know one distinctive feature of the Laura race. Their green skin. We take you now to the streets, to hear the citizens' opinions on this historic moment. Asterisk. Smiling, the girl watches the screen. I used to think only bad things came out of the gates, she says softly. But I really hope. I hope this meeting is different. The hero abruptly kills the power to the TV, staring blankly at the dark screen. Carrie asks why he cut the broadcast short, but the protagonist simply replies that, watching is pointless, they already know the ending. The handshake on screen is ancient history. The deal between humanity and the Laura race was sealed 2 weeks ago. The king's televised appearance is nothing more than political theater to calm the masses. The footage of the aliens emerging from the gate was pre-recorded. In reality, the Laura people have been entrenched here for quite some time. A panoramic view of Laura City is displayed. Construction is moving at breakneck speed, with 80% of residential zones already complete. The city is fully fortified with its own defense systems. The protagonist notes that achieving this in a single month is nothing short of miraculous. Rick admits the builder is terrifyingly capable, prompting a proud smile from Carrie. For now, only the Laura race resides there. But soon, this hub will welcome species from every corner of the multiverse. Immigrants from different dimensions will flock to Earth, and Rick raises his hands, declaring that the most significant landmark in history is rising on his turf. Carrie points to the horizon, confirming that the interdimensional terminal Rick requested is also under construction. Carrie asks if the progress pleases him. The hero muses that, in his previous timeline, this technology took 15 years to develop. Back then, they had to reverse-engineer tech from multiple dimensions, but with the Laura race's advanced knowledge, the timeline has shattered. Interdimensional travel is their specialty. Carrie beams, noting Rick's satisfaction, but adds a caveat. He estimates it will take a few more months to fully stabilize the gateway. Rick admits it's longer than he hoped, but compared to the decades it took in the past, a few months is a blink of an eye. He needs to reach Muram before the deadline. Rick hands over the destination coordinates. The monster notes that locking onto specific coordinates is tricky. It's not hard, just time-consuming. He promises to have the pathway secured within a month. Rick nods. 1 month is the limit. Then Rick's expression darkens. He warns that the existence of this dimensional terminal must remain top secret. Carrie bows his head, fully understanding the gravity of the situation. A gateway like this is a goldmine for trade and technology exchange, a beacon of progress. But if villains seize it, the consequences would be apocalyptic, potentially triggering an interdimensional war on Earth's soil. Opening the door to leave, Carrie mentions they are also constructing a private mansion for the master nearby. Rick waves it off, telling him not to waste resources on a house. The guild apartments are comfortable enough. Carrie agrees, but silently resolves to build the best possible residence regardless of the refusal. The scene shifts to Lily, frantically holding a trembling egg in her hands. "Look, it's moving," she cries. The creature inside is fighting to break out. She insists he touch it, but Rick recoils. He argues that she's the one raising it, so why should he get involved? Lily is offended by his lack of enthusiasm. Rick looks down at the egg and sighs to him. It's just another mouth to feed. Another headache in an already complicated life. He's too lazy to play parent. Lily frowns, clearly hurt by his indifference. She scolds him, telling him to stop teasing her and drop the tough guy act. Rick suppresses a smile, finding her reaction entertaining. He decides to push her buttons a little more, asking why he would lie about it being a burden. He reminds her of her constant demands for fried chicken, and wonders where she picks up her strange slang. She dragged that egg home, threw a tantrum to keep it, and now her expenses are skyrocketing. Lily squeezes her eyes shut and screams that if he hates her so much, he should just say it. Rick reaches out, calling her a stupid meat skewer, warning her to watch her tone. He threatens to wash her mouth out with soap. Lily snaps apparently. Buying chicken is a crime now? If she's such a burden, she'll just leave. With that, she vanishes into thin air. Rick looks at the empty space, then spots a note on the table. She actually ran away. He grins, unbothered. Where could she possibly go? She's not stubborn enough to last long. Hunger will bring her back. The clock ticks past 10 p.m. Rick closes his eyes, waiting. It's pitch black outside. If she doesn't come home soon, she misses her midnight snack. He checks the time. It's exactly midnight. Panic suddenly sets in. Rick rushes out the door, shouting her name. He grabs the chef, asking if Lily stopped by. The guy shakes his head. She hasn't been seen since yesterday. Rick's face falls, but he leaves an order. If she shows up, cook her whatever she wants. The witness confirmed the timeline. Yes, Lily stopped by last night. She ordered 2 burger combos, took maybe 2 bites, and vanished without finishing the meal. Rick plants his hands on his hips, patience wearing thin. Where the hell is she hiding? The contact plays dumb, raising an eyebrow. Who exactly are you talking to? A smirk plays on the girl's lips. There's nobody here. Rick presses, sharp and dangerous. You saw Lily. She holds up a finger, conceding. Okay, yes. She was here last night. Did she tell you anything? Rick demands. The girl lowers her head, recalling the interaction. Lily had asked for a loan. Hank, the shop owner, had asked how much she needed. Smirking, the girl explains. Just a little pocket money, she said. Then Lily asked if she could borrow one more thing. The protagonist frowns, sensing the complication. And? So, I gave her the cash and threw in the invisibility cloak to boot. Since it came from her personal collection, it was an artifact of immense value. It was top-tier gear from my curiosity shop, she admits. Hank stares straight ahead, his voice grave. I didn't think she was planning to run away. She didn't say a word about leaving. Lily is usually so accommodating, so obedient. It's completely out of character. Rick checks his phone, grimacing. If she's actually running, we have a problem. We need to double our efforts to track her down. If that's the case, we use every asset we have. He presses the phone to his ear, expression darkening. I need a favor, Rick says, voice low. He needs a tracker. Thankfully, their relationship with the Wind Guild is solid after the incident with the red fog. He sits in the car, dialing. I'm the guild leader, he reminds the voice on the other end. I have connections. I can help you. But right now, I need to know I can rely on you. The city skyline opens up before them. Great, we have a plan. Beside him, the girl sticks out her tongue, lightening the mood. A thought crosses Rick's mind. Honestly, Lily isn't in much physical danger. There are very few awakened in soul powerful enough to actually harm her. His worry lies elsewhere. If a rival guild finds Lily first, even though they suppress the demon inside her, trouble is guaranteed. There is no guarantee a skirmish wouldn't escalate into a disaster for the city. They have to secure her, at all costs. The fairy frowns, buzzing with concern. Lily is our friend. The others chime in, voices resolute. We'll find her. Don't worry. We're here to help. Kiri extends a hand, decisive. We're stopping all other operations until Lily is found. He clenches his fists, ready for action. One of the men speaks up, regret in his voice. She ran away 2 days ago? Why are you only telling me now? I'll throw everything I have into the search. Jacques looks down, shaking his head. No. I will find her. I have to explain what happened today. He sits by the window, fingers flying over a console, connecting 100 drones now. Meanwhile, a rival figure crosses his arms, observing the chaos. Looks like Lily from the White Dog Guild has gone AWOL. We've been looking everywhere. We even checked the forbidden zones outside the city limits. That's why they're in such a panic. A smile creeps onto the man's face. Wouldn't it be nice if we found the girl first? His subordinate replies, skeptical. They say she's the cousin of leader Rick, but they don't look related. Careless of them to lose such a gifted child. The thought hangs in the air. This is their chance. Wanted posters plaster the city walls, paper peeling off utility poles in the wind. Lily stares at her own face on a flyer. They're looking for me. These things are everywhere. She stands frozen in the middle of the street, paralyzed. Since I ran away, I've got nowhere to stay, she realizes. She's been living like a stray, surviving on the streets this whole time, and the hunger is gnawing at her. The money Hank gave her is long gone. She wants to go home, but shame holds her back. She looks down at her feet. He's probably furious. She imagines the scolding waiting for her. Her gaze falls on the egg in her arms, eyes widening in surprise as she feels a vibration. She shakes her head. No, Uncle said I annoyed him, but she knows she would never say that to him. He is her family. Scene shifts to a bustling food court in a mall. Trays of food are everywhere. A patron slurps noodles loudly. Lily watches, hand covering her face. She hears someone mention leftovers. Is there anything left? She thinks back to her meager meal. I barely ate anything. Starvation amplifies the temptation. Maybe someone will leave some chicken? Suddenly, a sharp crack echoes from the egg. Her eyes snap open in pure shock. She remembers the lore. He's going to think the first person he sees is his mother. It has to be her face he sees first. She needs to drop the invisibility cloak, but the place is packed. Panic sets in. A tray goes flying as she stumbles. I need to get to Uncle, right now. She knocks over food in her haste, invisible limbs flailing. A man jumps back. What was that? He stares at the empty space in terror. There's nobody there. Then, a shout. I saw legs. Floating legs. Is it another monster? Panic ripples through the crowd. Call the police immediately. Lily whispers a desperate no. She freezes. A guy frowns, stepping forward and shouting. Everyone stay calm. Former hunter here. Get to cover. I'll handle this. It won't get past me. In Lily's arms, the egg fractures violently. The hatchling is coming. Lily stares in horror, eyes squeezing shut. No! Suddenly, the air combusts. The room is engulfed in flames. The report comes in. Incident occurred 6 minutes ago. Rick listens to the briefing. A monster has appeared in the mall. He stares straight ahead. Security cameras show an invisible entity using fire magic. Rick knows immediately. It's Lily. He snaps his head around. Do we have a heading? Shock delivers the update. She's moving north. 5 minutes to the controlled territory. Rick bolts from the room. Drones are under attack. We can't identify the assailant. Rick sprints forward, mind racing. It's him. I already know. Get the car to the entrance, right now. He's not letting her get away this time. Whoever took out those drones wasn't just some random thug. They were awakened fast, lethal, and completely invisible. Rick spun around, sensing the urgency. We're leaving. Now! His driver shouted, already diving into the car. The vehicle tore down the highway, blurring the landscape. The driver's ability kicked in. Velocity boost. He could redline any transport beyond its mechanical limits. It wasn't flashy magic, but it conserved their stamina for the real fight. And they were going to need every ounce of it. Rick steeled himself. He was heading straight for the awakened hit squad hunting Lily. Suddenly, the ghost forest ahead erupted in flames. Lily whipped her head around as the firestorm surged. She screamed, scrambling backward, just as a massive explosion shattered the trees. The attacker scowled, unimpressed but wary. A mere brat wielding that kind of destructive power? He gritted his teeth. This ends now. He planned to slaughter her quickly. Meanwhile, the car drifted through a sharp turn. Rick realized the Pyramid Guild was closing the net. If the guild with the world's best intel network was tracking Lily, her cover was blown. Rick checked his tablet, the signal pinged. She's heading north, the driver called out. She hit the border checkpoint, but someone intercepted the surveillance drones. Rick's jaw tightened. The north was Black Dog territory. If she was there, she had walked straight into the lion's den. The car screeched to a halt at the border. Rick bolted out. Thanks for the ride, he muttered, eyes locking on the blockade. Now, hold them off. Don't let a single soul pass this point, Rick commanded, his voice ice cold. He didn't wait for an answer. His team charged. You heard him, Charlie roared, slamming his fist into the asphalt and shattering the road. None shall pass. The pursuers skidded to a stop. Is that an awakened? Charlie clenched his glowing fist. Roads closed, gentlemen. One of the enemy agents stepped forward, hands raised. We're just looking for the girl. This isn't even your jurisdiction. A heavy axe slammed into the dirt, cutting him off. Where did they get this gear? The agent stammered. Charlie scowled. You're making a lot of noise. Since you're so eager to die, let's have some fun. Charlie's grin was predatory. The enemies froze. These weren't normal guards. Whispers broke out in the enemy ranks. Wait, isn't that the guy who wiped out half a guild? While chaos erupted behind him, Rick leaped away. He scanned the wreckage. Drones lay smoking in the grass. She was here, he thought. But there's another way to track her. Where is she? Rick demanded. A small fairy materialized, trembling. Big fire, that way. Lily is in the fire. Great, Rick muttered. Lead the way. He gritted his teeth. That little troublemaker had no idea the hellstorm she had unleashed. Just wait until I catch her, he thought grimly. Ahead, Lily collapsed to the dirt, gasping for air. Why? Why are you doing this? She stared up at the looming figure. What did I ever do to you? Carl stood over her, his shadow swallowing her whole. Do to me? Carl sneered. Your very existence is a mistake. Lily flinched, her eyes dropping to the ground, terrified. Carl narrowed his eyes. I knew you were dangerous the moment I saw you. Why Rick keeps a monster like you around is beyond me. He took a step closer, raising his blade. I'm a pragmatic man. I nip problems in the bud. Lily scrambled back. If you want it painless, don't move. Lily's eyes went wide as a shadow flickered behind Carl. Uncle? Suddenly, Rick's sword slashed through the air, forcing Carl to spin around. Lily gasped, hope flooding her chest. Is it really you? Rick didn't look at her. We're not alone, kid. Rick planted himself between Lily and the killer. You and I have a lot to discuss, he tossed back to her. Hands up, stay put. Don't move a muscle until I'm done taking out the trash. Rick stepped forward, facing the older man. Fancy meeting you here, Carl. Carl extended a hand, dark energy crackling. Actually, this is perfect. I can exterminate both pests at once. He swung his sword. I was thinking the same thing, Rick replied, parrying the blow. Sparks flew. Carl gritted his teeth. It felt like he had just struck a mountain. Rick smiled coldly. Let's end this feud, right here, right now. Carl raised his hand, gathering shadows. You think you can beat me? I founded this game. Rick vanished, reappearing instantly in Carl's guard. Clash. As their blades locked, a memory flashed through Rick's mind. Carl. One of the first awakened. A legend. Founder of the Black Dog Guild and one of the strongest beings on the planet. Back when Rick was just a rookie, he had respected this man. He thought Carl fought for a greater cause. But that was a lifetime ago. Taste despair, Carl roared, unleashing a wave of darkness. But Rick just stood there, a golden aura igniting around him. Rick deflected the blast with a casual wave. Is that it? I expected more. Carl's eyes widened. What? What are you doing? I am the strongest, Carl screamed, his composure cracking. Rick swung his weapon, shattering Carl's defense. Strongest? You? Rick loomed over him. Your skills are decent, old man, but you've never truly embraced the darkness. Let me show you how it's done. Rick danced through the attacks, not even breaking a sweat. Carl swung wildly, hitting nothing but air. How? How is he dodging everything? It's like he knows my moves before I make them. Suddenly, a silver flash blinded him. Carl stared in horror. His right arm was gone. A blood-curdling scream tore from Carl's throat. The heart is next, Rick promised. Carl stumbled back, clutching the stump. Stay back. I need a potion. You let your guard down, Rick whispered, closing the distance in a heartbeat. No potions. No second chances. It's over. With his back against the wall, he had no choice but to unleash a forbidden technique, a secret move reserved solely for one-on-one duels, so rare that even he barely understood its full power. Suddenly, Carl triggered the skill, Vortex of Darkness. Rick just grinned, asking what this pathetic display was supposed to be. Right as Carl lunged to pierce the man with his sword, the hero frowned, unimpressed. He told Carl he knew this was coming after all. Carl tries this exact same move 10 years in the future. Carl froze, stammering, "What on earth are you talking about?" It seemed the technique was useless, even back then. Gripping his weapon, the protagonist critiqued the move. Nice skill, sure, but it lacks depth. The scene shifted to a desolate mountain range. A dark thought crossed Rick's mind. They were in the middle of nowhere. He could bury Carl right here, and not a soul would ever know. Rick looked down in surprise. That looks delicious. He stared at the dark spirit. Did that thing just speak? The hero extended his hand forward. It devours darkness, he realized. The spirit rose up, yawning that it wanted to sleep. Rick ignored the complaint, asking if this creature could help him manipulate the dark element. Staring straight ahead, the protagonist smirked. This would be awesome. Once they returned, he would need to consult the book of drafts immediately. He blinked, surprised to find himself standing still. The girl turned to him, hanging her head low. I was wrong, she whispered. Gritting his teeth, Rick demanded to know what she thought she was doing. I told you to stand there with your hands up. The majestic mountain view offered no comfort to the scolded girl. Lily raised her trembling arms high. I am so guilty, she cried. Rick nodded with cold approval. That is true. Then you deserve a harsher punishment. Frowning, the hero reminded her that he gave her money. Was she starving the entire time? Lily confessed she had already spent the cash. Rick sighed, realizing she really was starving after all. He grabbed her hand. When we return to the guild, I'll feed you, the protagonist promised. Everyone is waiting for us. Lily blinked, confused. Waiting? For me? Who else would they be waiting for? He scoffed. Lily lowered her gaze, overwhelmed. She squeezed her eyes shut. Hearing that, she realized just how long they had spent searching for her, if they had never found her. I'm so sorry, she repeated, guilt consuming her. Hank chimed in, noting that she had even burned through one of her most valuable artifacts just to escape. Lily snapped her head up. She screamed that she knew she was guilty. She was terrified she was just a burden to everyone. Suddenly, Chloe raised a finger, cutting through the tension. Everyone here loves you, Lily, Chloe said gently. But you have to promise right now that you will never pull a stunt like this again. Staring straight ahead, the girl vowed, I promise. Never again. Scene change. Chloe stood with a stack of documents. Sign these papers, she told Rick. She watched the protagonist as he turned. He slapped his signature on the table. Chloe watched him, deep in thought. Closing her eyes, she admitted she still could not get used to calling him by his new title. He had climbed the ranks far too fast. Can you sign these too? She asked. Rick grinned. Let me take a look. A thought crossed her mind. Of course, it was great that the manager was promoted to vice president, but Chloe gritted her teeth. It just meant a mountain of work for her. She was pulling overtime every single day. The hero barely looked up. Expected as much. You're great at your job. Chloe blinked in surprise. Everything was running smoothly. Thanks to her? Let me see. The hero studied the file. We need to poach members from the Black Dog Guild. The view shifted to the imposing building. 2 weeks had passed since Carl vanished. The Black Dog Guild, having lost its leader, had plunged into total chaos. Competitors were circling, trying to steal their talented awakened ones. A man raised his hand. It was clear. The Black Dog Guild was slowly being torn to pieces. Meanwhile, under Rick's leadership as vice president, the White House Guild was thriving. Money, fame, recognition, they had it all. Now we need to hire promising awakened ones and expand, Rick declared with a grin. I'll do whatever it takes to lure these three to us. Chloe frowned, skeptical. Aren't they considered average, even in their own guild? Rick frowned back. That is only for now. In the future, when dimensional travel becomes possible, these awakened ones will gain strength. Fast. Rick slammed his hand on the table. Looks like I'm done for today. I'm leaving early. Even if he worked half as much as the others, his salary was still 10 times higher. Talk about profitable. Chloe stopped him. The guildmaster said he has business with you. Go see him before you leave. He wants to see me? Rick sighed. Hands on his hips, the hero prepared himself. He knew Bill would get straight to the point. You're somehow connected to Carl's disappearance. Rick frowned. Of course not. Bill pressed him. You really weren't involved? Rick countered. You know how busy I've been with the promotion. The man glared. I can feel it. You had a hand in this. Sitting at the table, the protagonist calculated. It was not yet entirely clear what kind of abilities Bill had, but his senses were well developed. He never suspected the man could sense darkness. Gritting his teeth, Rick asked, What are you saying? Do I smell or something? Bill replied, No. I smelled that a mile away. But that doesn't matter. I called you for something else. The guildmaster extended his hand forward. It occurred to Rick that Bill had actually called to ask his opinion on the affairs of the guild. He really considered him the vice president. Sitting on the couch, the hero said, By the way, I have a favor to ask you too. What happened? Speak up. Don't be shy. Bill replied. Rick added, Team 7 performed exceptionally well during my absence. Rick grinned. So, as a reward, I want to organize a trip for the entire Team 7. Hearing this, Bill just closed his eyes. With a mischievous grin, the protagonist names his price. For his reward, he wants to organize a trip for the entire Team 7. Bill just shuts his eyes, clearly bracing himself for the inevitable chaos. Rick throws his hands in the air, shouting in frustration that it hasn't even been 6 months since he led a raid into another dimension, and now he's being dragged out again. The rest of the team is staring at the horizon, gushing about how the mountains are a sight to behold. They're raving about how wonderful the water is, treating this mission like a spring break vacation. Rick just grins, his nod dripping with sarcasm. Charlie tells him to relax and enjoy the hike. Rick shoots him a look. You sure this isn't going to blow up in our faces later? Charlie waves him off. What are you talking about? It's totally safe. Then the map pops up. Location confirmed, North Korea. We were just looking for a campsite, and times, oops, asterisk, accidentally crossed the border. Rick grits his teeth, fuming. If we set up camp here, this isn't a hike, it's an international incident. Or did you just trick me because you didn't want to come alone? Charlie plays dumb, Kiri looks away guiltily, and finally drops the bomb. The spatial gate to the Murim dimension is unstable. She explains that they need an item from that world to stabilize the gate. The hiking trip was just a cover to get him into North Korea. They're hunting for a Murim artifact that landed here. Rick sighs, holding up the folder. So, we need an item. Does it matter which one? How about this book? Kiri shuts him down. A book would be crushed by the spatial pressure. They need something solid at least 2 meters wide. Rick facepalms, trying to process this. An item from the Murim world. Strong enough to withstand the gate's pressure, he thinks about what kind of object could possibly fit those requirements. And the closest match is right here in North Korea. As the meat sizzles over the fire, a terrifying realization hits him. If anyone finds out he's conducting an unauthorized mission in North Korea, it'll be a disaster. Rick glares at Lily. We need to do this quietly. Find the target and get the hell out. Suddenly, a bush rustles behind him. The camera pans to the looming mountains. A hidden observer watches their camp. He thinks these damn trespassers have come to his territory to start trouble just when things were finally peaceful. The stranger steps closer. He doesn't know their game, but he knows one thing. If they leave that gear unguarded tonight, it's his. Rick, still sitting at the campfire, speaks up without turning. Took you long enough. Rick smirks. We've got plenty of meat left. Come help yourself. The man freezes, realizing he's been spotted. Rick turns calmly. Don't worry. I'm not here to fight. I need your help. Rick gestures to the food. Sit. Eat. We can talk while you eat. And if you help me find what I need, there's a lot more food where that came from. The man eyes the roast. He doesn't trust these Southerners, but this is a chance to feed his starving comrades. Frowning, he steps out. Rick asks for his name. Rick cuts to the chase. We're in Swan County, right? The man nods warily. Yes. That's why I'm here. Rick's gaze hardens. The thing I'm looking for is hidden in a cave nearby. You're going to help me find it. The man scoffs. You think it's that easy? There are over 40 caves around this mountain, and those are just the ones I know about. The soldier looks away, calculating. He knows he's the guide they need, and judging by their gear, these Southerners are loaded. He can use this to solve his unit's supply problem. He glares at Rick. I don't work for free. Everything has a price. I'll guide you, but I want half your supplies and 2 cars. Rick raises an eyebrow. You're asking for a lot. Suddenly, the man presses a gun to Rick's throat. It wasn't a request, the soldier hisses through gritted teeth. It's an order. If you don't want to die, you'll do exactly as I say. Rick doesn't flinch, he just smiles. I offer you a fair deal, and you take me for a naive simpleton? The soldier grips the gun tighter, but his confidence wavers. Rick laughs. We already have a logistics manager. You're just talking nonsense because you're scared. Charlie turns to Rick. Boss, this guy's an asshole. Want me to teach him some manners? The soldier panics, shoving the gun forward. You vile Southerner. It's a trap. Rick sighs. Well, negotiations have failed. The soldier strikes, but Rick is faster. He grabs the man's arm and executes a perfect throw, slamming him into the dirt. The red-haired girl grins. Are we fighting? Rick shakes his head. No need, just tie him up. Rick kneels beside the bound soldier. Now, talk. The man looks shocked when Rick reveals he knows everything about him. Former North Korean Special Forces. You went rogue after the regime collapsed, but you're still planning to retake Pyongyang, aren't you? Am I right? Rick puts a hand on his hip. Look, I have enemies everywhere. I don't need to add you to the list. So, let's just agree to acceptable terms, the soldier shouts, furious. Torture me all you want. I won't tell you anything. One of the team members asks, Is he asking us to torture him? Rick glares menacingly at the prisoner. If he insists, maybe we should oblige. But internally, Rick thinks he already has the information he needs. Besides, it feels a bit awkward to torture a man in front of the whole team. But he can't just let him go. Suddenly, the red-haired girl spins around in surprise. A portal rips open in the sky and a man comes flying out. Who the hell is that? She screams. She smiles dangerously, asking why he was hiding. The newcomer's face turns pale, wondering how he ended up here. Explosion of movement. The stranger kicks off the ground, screaming that we are nothing but savages, demanding his immediate release while the girl stares ahead, eyes wide with terror. Moments later, the threat is neutralized, bound and helpless. Our protagonist crouches down to eye level, offering a simple ultimatum. If the prisoner answers the questions, he might just listen. The prisoner jerks his head up, desperation cracking his voice. He begs for help if he doesn't return. His starving comrades are as good as dead. Rick stares him down, unimpressed. He calmly explains he was literally packing food for them when this lunatic decided to point a sword at him. That leaves him no choice but to keep the guy tied up. Rick scans the forest line, demanding the location of these comrades. Soon enough, a group of ragged youths emerges from the shadows. They are shaking violently from the cold. Rick frowns at the sight, immediately spinning around to bark orders at the medical team to get to work. Someone asks if they are locals. The doctor kneels beside them, running a quick diagnostic before assuring everyone there is nothing to worry about. They are only here because their friend sent for help. The prisoner clutches his arm, frowning, and insists he can handle the cooking. He claims we should leave that part to him. He places a hand over his chest, admitting that ever since Rick tuned up his prosthesis, delicate tasks have become second nature. That mechanical upgrade is the only reason he is itching to cook again. Rick eyes him for a second before telling him to hold down the fort and keep watch. Rick needs to disappear for a bit. He figures there is no need to mention the lethal special devices hidden inside that prosthetic arm just yet. Let the guy discover them when he is ready. Suddenly, the scene shifts. We are transported deep into the forest thicket. The prisoner, still nervous, thanks them for saving his crew, but he warns Rick to stay sharp. They might be helping now. But he has no idea what their true game is. Rick flashes a broad, knowing grin. The guy is absolutely right. Nothing in this world is free. It is time to pay the bill. Since their friends are safe, Rick calls in the debt. They are going to scour every cave in the sector. The prisoner grinds his teeth in frustration, but he has no leverage. The girl gazes ahead, wishing them luck, promising to scout the immediate area. The view shifts to a landscape of ruin. We are told that North Korea was decimated. This isn't just war, it is annihilation. When the first gates ripped open, spirits from the Twilight world descended upon Pyongyang, unleashing absolute chaos. Elemental storms tore the city apart. We learn that everything in the blast radius mutated, twisted by severe spatial erosion. The newly awakened stood no chance. Pyongyang fell, transforming into an impenetrable fortress of spirits. Seeing it in person is a different beast entirely. The reality is far more horrifying than the rumors. But Rick? He doesn't care. He turns to his female companion. He warns her it is too dangerous to get close. She needs to keep her distance. She nods, promising to try her best. His expression darkens, eyes locking onto the danger ahead. It is time to hunt. We cut to day 3 in the forest. Someone complains this is the 35th cave in a row. They tell him it is not his fault if she is chasing ghosts and wasting everyone's time. For him, coming up empty is a heavy loss. But suddenly, a strange, oppressive aura floods the area. Someone whispers that this time, it feels different. His internal energy is screaming in reaction to this place. Rick commands everyone to hold their position outside. He is going in alone. The girl turns to the prisoners, promising to keep them in check. Rick steps into the darkness, his senses on high alert. He muses that the ocean martial arts were crafted for one reason: to protect the heavenly demon. The deeper he descends, the more violently his internal energy vibrates. A statue looms in the darkness. Rick realizes the cave's dark energy is intensifying. This isn't just a carving. It is the statue of the first heavenly demon of the cult. Decades of dark energy are condensed right here. Legends say unprepared travelers who stumble into this pressure go insane instantly. Rick smirks. He would have lost his mind too, if not for the protection of the ocean arts. He draws his blade. He never planned to use these skills for their original purpose, guarding the demon, but right now, they are the only shield keeping this dark energy from crushing him. He pushes forward, wading through the power trying to consume him. The statue stands rigid, pouring out darkness. Rick raises his sword, preparing to strike. A split second later, the cavern walls shudder violently. Outside, the prisoner screams at the girl that the mountain is shaking. He yells that they need to save Rick before the cave collapses on him. She doesn't flinch, simply reminding him that Rick gave a direct order to wait. The prisoner is stunned by her calm. Rick emerges from the dust, joking that someone listening might think the guy was actually worried about a friend. Rick holds a fragment of the statue in his hands. This is it, the very thing he was hunting. The prisoner notes Rick looks terrifyingly pleased with himself. Rick confirms it. He found exactly what he has been chasing for so long. A scroll materializes before us. Rick realizes he has hit the jackpot. He stumbled onto something priceless. Who would have guessed a treasure map was hidden inside the statue's mouth? He decides to examine it properly once they are back in the city. The girl asks if they can finally leave. Rick nods. They are done here. The prisoner lowers his head, realizing the journey is over. He admits he thought Rick was a villain at first, but the man saved his friends and fed them. He looks up at the sky, a pang of regret hitting him. He is sorry their time together was so short, but this seems to be the end of the road. Someone grabs the doctor's hands, overflowing with gratitude. The girl stares ahead, satisfied. She replies that the only thing that matters is everyone is safe and sound. Lucky she packed that extra supply of medicine. Suddenly, a voice calls out that the food is delicious. The guy shouts back that once they are done eating, they better help with the dishes. He looks toward the horizon, watching the fading glow. Thinking it's his girlfriend returning, he turns with a smile, only to face a volley of fireballs screaming toward him. He throws up his hands. "Take cover! Now!" he roars. A massive stone barrier erupts from the earth, shielding them just as the doctor points frantically to the flank. "Incoming! Get down! The cave is under siege." 3 figures step from the shadows, their eyes glazed and vacant spirits have hijacked their minds. "Look at this harvest," one of the possessed soldiers sneers. "Kill them all." Rick watches as the spirits rush him, closing the distance in a blink. He doesn't flinch. He snatches the lead attacker by the face, crushing down until time's boom asterisk. A violent explosion rocks the cavern. Through the smoke, he glares at the remaining enemies. "As long as I'm standing, nobody touches my team." He clasps his hands together. Stone spikes explode from the ground, skewering the attackers. A golden aura flares around Rick, terrifying and majestic, as he delivers a bone-shattering punch to the next target. "Where do you think you're going?" Rick taunts. The spirit freezes, then jerks as sniper rounds tear into him. The sniper grins, cycling the bolt. "We aren't defenseless either. They might lack a commander, but they can hold the line until backup arrives." Suddenly, the color drains from one soldier's face. A scream pierces the air from behind. "What the?" They spin around in horror to see a hand punched clean through the doctor's chest. The fear is palpable. Rick turns, eyes blazing with fury, but the spirit sneers at the stone wielder. "Don't try anything stupid." He tosses the bleeding doctor to the floor like a rag doll. "Surrender now, or I kill the rest of them." The scene shifts to the protagonist. Rick is grilling the last of their meat supplies, looking over at the girl. "Smells good, right?" She beams at him. "You're the best chef ever." "My uncle is a total miracle worker," she laughs. But then, they freeze. They stare at the cave entrance. It's too quiet. They rush inside to find nothing but wreckage. "What happened here?" she screams. "Where is everyone?" Rick grips a soldier's shoulder, his expression darkening. He stares menacingly at the doctor, who is slumped against a vehicle, clutching his wound. Rick pours a healing potion over him. "Does this mean they were all taken?" "Yes," the doctor rasps, lowering his head in shame. Rick's voice is low. "Then why are you still here? Why didn't they take you?" "My friend. He whispered for me to play dead." The doctor chokes out. "Someone had to survive to report the situation." Rick steps back, nodding solemnly. "I understand. Rest now. Let the potion work." Rick's mind races. He never forbade them from using the healing supplies. "Just hold on until I get them back." Rick lowers his head, calculating the odds. There could be over 2 million enemies out there. Since the fall of Pyongyang, the spirits have enslaved every single inhabitant. Rick processes the intel he's gathered. He visualizes the enemy. These aren't just spirits, they're zombie spirits. Usually, a spirit needs a contract to manifest in this world. A contract allows a spirit to maintain its form by feeding on the summoner's mana. That's the rules. But as he recalls the image of a burning man, he realizes Pyongyang is the exception. The spirits didn't ask for permission, they took over. Facing extinction, the spirits grew desperate. They stopped bargaining and started conquering. They hijacked human will, wearing bodies like suits to survive. Because of their grotesque nature, humanity named them zombie spirits. Rick steps out of the cave, the clock ticking in his head. Transformation into a permanent zombie spirit takes roughly 72 hours. He has to extract his people before it's too late. He pictures the army he needs. He remembers the last liberation attempt on Pyongyang. 120 elite, awakened from both Korea's and China, joined forces. Only 50 made it back alive. Can he really save everyone alone? The girl spins around, panic setting in. Where did they go? Did they fight someone? Suddenly, an elf materializes before them. The girl throws her arms around the elf's neck. "They've been kidnapped by the spirits." The elf's face is grim. "Then we need to retreat immediately. This is beyond us." Rick turns his back on her. "I'm not abandoning my people," he states cold. "If I can breach that barrier, I can handle whatever is inside." The woman steps up, magic swirling in her palm. "Need a hand getting through?" She offers a nervous smile. "I hope you don't need me for the fighting. I wanted to see the interior, but with those monsters inside, I only scouted the perimeter." She shudders, looking at the dark zone. Rick studies the map, eyes narrowing in thought. Infiltration might be a better play than a frontal assault. He glances at his ally. "Can you patch me through to the other special agents?" He smirks. "I can't be the only Super Korean agent left alive. I'm saving my team, and I'm taking back Pyongyang. He looks at the communicator. Get everyone on the line, now. We cut to an old man inside the magical barrier of Pyongyang. He senses his vessel decaying. This body is reaching its limit, he thinks. He lifts his head, sniffing the air. Fresh prey outside the barrier. But hunting alone is risky for him now. Rick approaches, his eyes consumed by a deep, abyssal darkness. The old man stares. Is that a dark spirit? He's baffled. How did a weak spirit claim such a powerful host? Rick extends a hand, playing the part perfectly. How did you manage to take this body? The old man asks, intrigued. In a flash, the old man's mind is ensnared. Rick stares him down, his internal monologue cold and calculating. He can't tell the difference. He thinks I'm one of them. Rick didn't expect the artificial spirit to take the bait so easily. Rick smiles, a predator playing with his food. Be a good boy, he whispers, touching his earpiece. And I'll give you everything you crave. Rick reports in he has breached the barrier. The team responds immediately. The connection is stable. Read you loud and clear, Rick confirms. Scanning the perimeter, the protagonist gazes upon a ruined metropolis crawling with spirits. A voice crackles in his ear, asking for a visual. It is hauntingly beautiful inside. Rick observes the hierarchy. Aside from the heavy hitters, the area is swarming with lower-tier spirits. The average ones are smaller, less imposing. He peers cautiously around a corner. Research warned him about this. Higher spirits never travel alone. He has to tread lightly. These things pack the same punch as a swordmaster. His eyes narrow, focusing on the threat ahead. And there it is, the apex predator. Hovering above, he spots a massive entity shaped like a ray. There is no mistaking that aura. It is the supreme spirit of ice. They call him Frost. Rick quickly bows his head, blending in with the horde. This isn't just a monster. It is a walking national disaster. With the Spirit Lord absent, Frost is the de facto ruler of these wastelands. Rick needs to move fast before this icy tyrant sniffs him out. A holographic map flickers into view. The objective: retake Pyongyang. The strategy is clear. First, infiltrate the city and plant mage bombs in the 7 towers anchoring the magical barrier. Then, a synchronized detonation. Raising a flask high, the female commander emphasizes the critical detail. They must blow at the exact same instant. If even one tower stands, the barrier regenerates immediately. But once it falls, the spirits will be momentarily powerless. That is our window, she declares, locking eyes with him. You strike the city the second those towers fall. She glances at her teammate, silently agreeing. They will use that chaos to rescue their captured squad members before joining the fray. She adds grimly, I won't last long against Frost until you get our people out. Her teammate quips back. I'll probably be fried before Uncle even gets here. Back in the present, the mission is clear. Crush the spirits, reclaim the city, and return to the guild. Rick materializes inside the first tower. He figures, since he is cloaked in the guise of a zombie spirit, internal security should be lax. It is a straight shot to the roof. Suddenly, 2 spirits block his path, demanding to know his business. Their presence is suffocating. One points a jagged finger, screaming, How dare you! Rick sizes them up. He can take these average spirits without breaking a sweat. He unleashes a wave of dark energy. It does not matter what element they are, darkness consumes everything. His own dark spirit grins. Not so easy to satiate, is it? A few hours skip by. Rick slaps a charge onto a support column. He checks in with his partner. That is the 6th bomb set, moving to the final target. A dark aura swirls around him. He frowns. I have reached the level of an average, maybe even a higher spirit. But it is still not enough power. We will hunt again later, he mutters to the darkness within. Just be patient. Above, swarms of spirits sweep across the city skyline. They are scouring the outskirts, a natural reaction since dozens of their kin have mysteriously vanished. Looming ahead is the massive central tower. Rick knows he has to hustle. The final charge goes in the central spire. He stalks through the streets, noting that the closer he gets to the core, the thicker the crowd of medium and higher spirits becomes. His missing team is composed of elite, awakened, so they are likely being held in the heart of the city. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the air, addressing him directly. Rick freezes. A heavy hand lands on his shoulder. It is a higher spirit. Why didn't you answer me? It growls. The demon peers at him suspiciously. A spirit of darkness? Here? Strange. Rick keeps his head low, hiding his eyes. Radio chatter buzzes in his ear. Commencing operation. Rick signals discreetly. Right now! Rick snaps. He chops the demon's neck with maximum force, but the creature just glares, its shadow instantly knitting the wound back together. You are not one of us, the spirit hisses. Rick curses internally. He aimed to sever the head, but the thing's hide is tougher than steel. A massive shockwave blasts Rick backward. The spirit roars, "I will show you what we do to little rats who sneak around." Rick wonders if the beast is absorbing the darkness. He draws his blade. Ready? With a blur of motion, he executes Shadow Bite, slicing the demon into ribbons, but the cover is blown. A scream echoes nearby. Intruders, humans are attacking. Rick extends his hand, declaring, "My shadow has feasted enough, time to go." He launches himself forward in a high-speed dash. He glances back at his fallen foe. Frost will know about this instantly. The stealth mission is scrubbed, he needs to regroup and improvise. Touching his earpiece, he demands, "Repeat that last update." His eyes widen in genuine alarm. The girls confirm, Team 7 is close to your position. Behind him, a spirit rockets forward, shrieking, "Catch the scout." "I will rip you apart," it screams. Rick barely dodges an energy blast and barks into the comms, "Give me exact coordinates." Tower basement, dead center of the city. No casualties, confirmed everyone but one is unconscious. Rick frowns as the voice of the conscious survivor comes through. "I think they hit us with some kind of sleep spell. It is weird though. I came to my senses very quickly." Rick realizes why immediately. It is the pendant. The immunity artifact Rick gave him after their continent crossing. The survivor stares helplessly at his unconscious teammates. He gritted his teeth, his gaze sweeping over the sea of captives, thousands of souls packed into the area like cattle awaiting slaughter. Rick broke the grim silence, revealing the enemy's cruelty. They were treating humans as expendable batteries to fuel their zombie spirits, discarding them the moment they ran dry. As the protagonist deftly dodged an incoming strike, his comrade shouted for orders. Rick's eyes snapped to the man's mechanical limb, reminding him that they hadn't stripped him of his prosthesis. The man clutched his face, confused why Rick was focused on his arm in a life-or-death moment, but Rick just smiled, touched by the concern, while mentally visualizing the dormant potential within his friend. He realized he wanted to see this man survive and evolve, knowing that true bonds are only forged when people gain the strength to protect what matters. Rick decided now was the time to play his ace. He lied smoothly, claiming his friend had awakened a special ability, and pointed meaningfully at the mechanical arm. He revealed a hidden mechanism, a concealed switch on the elbow that, once pressed, would inject a volatile serum directly into his bloodstream. This wasn't just medicine. It was a cocktail of high-grade monster blood, harvested from ancient serpents and parasitic demons. The man stared at the button, eyes wide with shock. Rick's voice dropped to a commanding whisper. "Don't fight it. Let the magical energy flood your system and surrender to the instinct." The man's expression hardened into a menacing glare. As the agony of transformation took hold, the scene shifts to the shadowy entrance of the central tower's basement, where a guard murmurs that their quota should be filled. Suddenly, a high-rank electric spirit materialized, scoffing at the humans' futile resistance and declaring that any attempt to escape was meaningless. "Frost will devour them all regardless," he sneered, while behind him, a lower-tier spirit swayed dizzily, his mana completely drained by his superiors. The electric spirit callously remarked that they should just wring the humans dry since they were destined for the grave anyway, unaware of the predator stalking them. He mused that the barrier made the tower impenetrable from the outside, but paused as a chill ran down his spine, prompting him to glance back. A silhouette emerged from the shadows, someone who had already bypassed their defenses, and the spirit demanded to know the intruder's identity. The intruder, now morphed into a demonic form, flashed a jagged smile and whispered, "You don't need to know. You're about to be dead." The electric spirit stiffened, realizing a demon had breached their sanctuary. Back on the ground, Rick turned just in time to see a massive explosion erupt in the distance, confirming that his comrade's mixing ability had triggered. It was an ultra-rare power that scaled exponentially with the quality of monster blood consumed. Given the high-level samples in that injection, his friend had just become a juggernaut. The demon man tore up the side of the tower with supernatural speed, his claws shredding spirits like wet paper as a maniacal laugh escaped his throat. "This power is intoxicating," he roared, reaching the pinnacle of the spire and radioing Rick to announce he was in position. Rick gave the order to bring the whole thing down on his signal, then exhaled deeply, turning to face the horde of enemies with a grim determination. Just one loose end left. As the spirits lunged at Rick, the demon atop the tower slammed his fist into the structure, triggering a chain reaction of devastating explosions that rocked the entire city. The ambient energy sustaining the barrier began to hemorrhage. The enemy spirit watched in horror as his mana shield crumbled, while Rick seized the opening and charged. "The barrier is down!" Rick bellowed, using the momentum to execute a lethal feint that sent an opponent's head spinning through the air. He rallied his team, screaming that hesitation meant death. If they stopped now, they would lose everyone they came to save. Rick became a whirlwind of steel, cutting a bloody path forward and admitting this was messier than planned, until a chilling presence, the ice spirit, Frost, blocked his way. Rick realized he had to stall the boss, but when he scanned the battlefield for his ace in the hole, he was told to leave the heavy lifting to her. On cue, a searing fireball illuminated the sky. The girl wreathed herself in flames, summoning a colossal fire avatar to match the ice spirit's size. The Titan of Flame slammed into Frost with earth-shattering force, knocking the ice spirit to the dirt as he spat. That much heat from a mere girl? How dare she? Frost snarled. But Rick just gripped his sword tighter, impressed that his girlfriend had managed to land such a devastating ambush. Still, their enemy was a high-rank spirit. They had a narrow window to press the advantage before he adapted to the chaotic battlefield conditions. Frost raised his head, eyes glowing with malice. "Playtime is over," he hissed, detonating a shockwave of razor-sharp ice spikes in every direction. He acknowledged her skill as a fire mage, but sneered that she was still leagues away from putting him in the ground. "I'll make your body my new vessel," Frost threatened, but Rick intercepted with a heavy slash, shouting at her to ignore the taunts and keep pouring on the damage. Rick analyzed the situation. The more physical damage Frost's vessel took, the closer he was to reverting to his vulnerable spirit form. Sensing the weakness, the fire avatar grappled the ice spirit, locking him in place while Rick roared, "Don't let him breathe!" Rick launched himself into the air, sword raised for a decisive strike. Frost screamed that this was a cowardly tactic, but Rick just extended his hand. "Let's end this with some fireworks," Rick declared, channeling every ounce of his energy into a point-blank blast. The resulting beam of destruction annihilated the enemy and tore across the horizon, leaving a stunned silence in the wake of the incredible explosion. As the dust settled and the massive ice spirit vanished, the captives raised their hands to the sky, cheering wildly. They were finally free. 1 week after the liberation of Pyongyang, the city was already bustling. Refugees flooded back the moment news of the victory spread. We see a man with a flushed face looking utterly miserable. He had been entrusted with the monumental task of rebuilding the North Korean capital. He clearly hated the administrative burden and had no desire to live there, but the responsibility had been dumped squarely in his lap. Rick strolled up and asked if he was busy. The man turned, his expression softening instantly. "For you? I always have time. I owe you my life," the man said, bowing his head in profound gratitude. 100 years wouldn't be enough to repay what you've done for me." He wasn't just expecting loyalty, he demanded it. Suddenly, the roar of an engine cuts through the silence. "They're here," he mutters, spinning around to face the approaching vehicle. A voice booms out, calling for Rick to come see the goods. The driver leans out the window, grinning like a shark. "Hey, check out the new wheels I got for you." Rick glares daggers at the driver, his voice low and dangerous. "Keep it down. Behave yourself." Just then, the passenger door opens, and a woman steps out. She scans the desolate surroundings, shaking her head. "I never thought I'd have to drag myself all the way to North Korea just to meet a faction leader," she scoffs. Her eyes narrow in distaste. "You said this was just a training trip." With a huff, she shoves a thick folder into his chest. Rick ignores her attitude. "Did you bring what I asked for?" The woman rolls her eyes. "Don't worry. Everything you need is right there in the envelope." Rick turns to his comrade, slapping the folder into the man's hands. "Read it. Get familiar with the terms." A sly smile creeps onto his face. "It's a contract. And no, we're not just opening a branch office here." The soldier grips the folder, his mind racing. He never imagined a foreign guild would propose something on this scale. Clutching the documents, the soldier stares at Rick. He owes this man his life. In his heart, he swears he will repay that debt, no matter the cost. "I understand," the soldier says quickly. Rick frowns, his expression hardening. "You understand? You haven't even opened it yet. You didn't even look at the text. We need to discuss the details properly. Not out here." The scene shifts. We find them inside a quiet, makeshift office, away from prying eyes. Rick leans back, eyes locked on the soldier. "So, did you read it?" He crosses his arms, getting straight to business. "For the next 3 years, the White House Guild is obligated to provide full assistance to Pyongyang. In exchange, we get exclusive trading rights for all magic stones found in the region. Don't worry, we'll pay market price. Plus, this project will create thousands of jobs for the North Korean people." Rick visualizes the map in his head. He knows for a fact that North Korea sits on massive, untouched magic stone mines. But you guys don't have the processing technology, Rick thinks. Without us, those stones are just rocks. But once we set up the supply chain, we'll have a direct land route to the continent. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Even for a giant like the White House, this is huge. The soldier lowers his head, scanning the clauses. The terms, they're actually generous. Suspiciously so. But do I have the right to sign this? He wonders. Rick shakes his head, sensing the hesitation. I'm not forcing you to sign right this second. If you want to refuse, that's fine. The soldier looks up, panic flickering in his eyes. And if I do refuse, what happens then? Rick shrugs nonchalantly. Then I pack up and go back to South Korea. My job here is done. But once I cross that border, the world will know Pyongyang is vulnerable. The soldier swallows hard, realizing the implication. Packs of hungry wolves will come running to pick the carcass clean. The woman places a hand on her chest, stepping forward. Listen to me. The White House Guild is the strongest force in Korea. As long as we're here, you're untouchable. She extends a hand, her voice soft but firm. That 3-year aid package? It includes food and medicine. I promise you, no other guild will offer you a lifeline like this. The soldier slams his hand on the table, conflicted. I know, it's a great deal. He thinks of the starving city outside. We can barely last another 2 days without aid. But I'm just a soldier. He stares at the signature line. A decision this massive, it needs a chairman, not a grunt like me. Rick smiles, a dark glint in his eye. And where is this chairman? Rick asks, mockingly. If the seat is empty, take it. Become the chairman. The soldier clenches his fists, shouting. What are you saying? Rick leans in, his voice dropping to a whisper. Think about it. Who else is left? The so-called elite? They're all dead. Or they were the first cowards to run when the crisis started. The soldier grits his teeth. He wouldn't trust those traitors with his country's future anyway. Rick places his hand over the soldier's. Here's the truth. I'm only making this deal because it's times you asterisk. If you hadn't led the defense of Pyongyang, I wouldn't even be here. The people don't want the elite. They want you. The soldier looks up, silence hanging heavy in the room. Finally, he snatches the pen. You're right. The people trust me now. I have to step up. He signs the paper with a flourish. I'll prove I'm a chairman worth following. No one will object to this. Rick's smile widens, sharp and satisfied. Exactly. Now you're getting it. Narrator. A few days later, the bombshell drops. The White House Guild officially announces their exclusive partnership with North Korea. We cut to a boardroom of angry officials. The president has been forced to authorize humanitarian aid to match the guild's move. Personnel and awakened from rival guilds flood across the border, scrambling for scraps. But it's too late. The ink is dry. The White House Guild holds all the cards. A map flashes on screen 1 month later. The ruined city of Pyongyang is nearly rebuilt. Rick hasn't been idle. He's been consolidating power, gathering stray, awakened under his banner. We cut back to the city streets. Rick stands on a rooftop, surveying his kingdom. Construction is moving at a breakneck pace. Team 7 has really outdone themselves, he muses. Suddenly, space warps. A demon materializes in front of him, grinning. So, how is the little miss feeling? Rick flares his aura, power radiating off him in waves. She's fine. I expect nothing less from my personal doctor. Walking through the recovery ward, Rick notes the urgent need for more potions. Suddenly, the spirit girl extends her hands, revealing glowing leaves gathered from the spirit dimension. She claims that brewing these leaves into kimchi creates a potent health tonic. Watching the scene unfold, Rick realizes the refugees are finally out of danger. The monster threat has been subdued, medical aid is flowing to the wounded, and research in the spirit realm is advancing at an incredible pace. A presence shifts nearby. Rick turns to see a familiar face smiling back. It is the man once possessed by the giant moth, looking human and healthy again. The protagonist acknowledges him, recalling the chaos of his possession. The man explains his new mission has brought him here. He is overseeing the construction of an interdimensional gate. Once complete, travel between Seoul and Pyongyang will be nearly instantaneous. Rick grins, saying that sounds fantastic, but internally, he is stunned. In the original timeline, this technology took 20 years to develop. At this accelerated rate, humanity might actually stand a chance. Even if the butterfly effect triggers unforeseen events, they have the tools to mitigate the consequences. Rick asks about the statue artifact. The man beams, delivering the best news yet, while looking at the satisfied protagonist. He confirms they have successfully stabilized a spatial gate leading directly to the Murim world. He notes that Rick seems to have business to attend to there. The scene shifts to a towering skyscraper in the city. Team 7 has officially returned to Seoul, and the atmosphere is celebratory. Their return has smoothed diplomatic relations with North Korea, a process made easier now that the new leader of Team 7 has stepped up to his obligations. The former moth vessel bows his head, declaring what a great honor it is to stand before the Korean people in this era of progress. As he considers a late-night interview, Rick slips back into work mode. He is briefed that the team structure has been reorganized. The young prodigy is now the official leader, with his friend serving as deputy. With the team rebuilt and self-sufficient, Rick realizes his presence is no longer mandatory. Rick quietly cracks the door to a private room. The spirit girl is sound asleep, and he whispers that it is for the best. Listening to her comic snoring, he recalls the terrifying power she used to annihilate the spirits. It is a relief she is resting peacefully. Next week she starts school, and his comrades will watch over her. She is in safe hands, which frees him up for his mission. Rick bounds across the rooftops, moving with supernatural speed. His mind is at ease. He can now depart for the martial arts world, without worry. He has officially taken a 2-month vacation abroad. In reality, his target is the Murim world, and his objective is to seize the legendary Heavenly Sword. Inside the lab, the operator confirms the spatial gate is primed. Rick suits up in fresh gear, declaring he is ready for the jump. The elf technician eyes him, asking if the girl knows he is leaving. Rick admits she does not. If she found out he was leaving without her, it would be a disaster. She would likely tear the facility apart in a tantrum. The girl might look like a small ward, but she is a walking catastrophe. Leaving her behind is the hardest part of the mission. The technician hands him a remote control, explaining the return protocol. When he wants to come home, he just needs to infuse the button with magic power to open the gate. The device also doubles as a tracker. It cannot transmit voice, but it sends a location signal. The technician warns him to guard it with his life, as it is his only ticket back. It will transmit a distress signal if anything goes wrong. Rick stares ahead with a confident smile, promising to return in one piece. He replies that he doubts he will need the rescue function, but he appreciates the insurance. He steps up to the swirling portal. Because there is no receiving gate in the Murim world, the transport relies on magnetic resonance. Rick confirms he understands the risks. He visualizes the Sword Emperor's martial arts manual in his inventory. Since he possesses the book, there is a high probability of spawning near the Emperor's legacy. The resonance should pull him toward the Sword Emperor's location. The elf waves him off, shouting for him to bring back a unique souvenir. Rick steps into the light. A blinding flash consumes him as he tears through the dimensional barrier at breakneck speed. Instantly, the modern world vanishes. Rick stands amidst towering mountains, staring down at an ancient Chinese city. He has successfully infiltrated the village. Walking down the dirt road, he decides his first priority is securing lodging and gathering intel. He flags down a passing local, adopting the persona of a wandering traveler to avoid suspicion. He asks if there is an inn nearby for a weary wanderer. The local points a finger down the road. There is a tavern in that direction, run by an old man. Rick thanks him, spotting the establishment ahead. So far, everything is going smoothly. If he can locate the Heavenly Sword quickly, this might actually turn into a relaxing vacation. The innkeeper welcomes him with a wide, hospitable smile. He slams a bowl of noodles and buns onto the table, then leans in closer. He notes that Rick carries himself like a martial artist, and asks which sect he hails from. Rick sticks to his cover story. He claims to be a simple explorer wandering through different regions. He asks for the name of this village, feigning ignorance. The innkeeper finds it hilarious that a traveler does not even know where he is. He laughs, offering to feed Rick for free if he stays in this wilderness. Rick acts surprised, playing the part of the naive tourist. But the innkeeper's demeanor suddenly shifts. The old man pours a drink, his eyes sharpening into a menacing glare. He sees through the disguise. Rick claims to be an explorer, yet his body shows no wear. He asks how a young man stays in such pristine shape without martial training while traveling these dangerous lands. Rick simply smiles, ready to play the game. To an outsider, it might have looked like a quiet dinner, but Rick saw right through the illusion. The innkeeper's story about the frowning explorer was a complete fabrication. Something else was clearly putting the man on edge. Rick watched the young server working behind the owner. Checking the boy's aura, he realized that even in the mundane act of washing dishes, true martial arts mastery was being displayed. That kid knew the techniques of the Sword Emperor. Rick smiled. He finally understood why fate had led him to this inn. Blue energy shimmered across the floor, and Rick decided to take a closer look, crouching low to the ground for a better vantage point. He was certain now these two were practitioners. He watched as the older man struck the boy's pressure points with rapid precision. Rick recognized it immediately as blood acupuncture. Visualizing the technique, Rick analyzed the process. This method uses internal energy to stimulate blood circulation directly. It boosts vitality and relaxes the muscles, a perfect therapy for someone pushing their body to the limit with martial arts training. Finally, the boy exhaled, and his master declared the session over. The old man handed him a cup of liquid, noting that his body seemed to be handling this dose much better than the previous attempts. As he drank the herbal infusion, the boy complained that this new medicine was incredibly bitter, then whispered that the guests today didn't seem to be hunting them. The man agreed, admitting he hadn't sensed any killing intent while talking to the stranger, but he lowered his head, recalling their earlier interaction. He reassured the boy, noting that the stranger wore no mask, didn't hide his face, and most importantly, lacked the telltale calluses on his hands. You can hide your inner strength, the man reasoned, but you cannot hide the hands of a swordsman. Rick, listening from the shadows, smiled. He had noticed every detail they missed. The old man announced it was time to eat, but suddenly, he unleashed waves of aura throughout the house. Rick realized the plan. Since the man was using chi, he needed to check if the stranger knew marine martial arts. If so, their energies would resonate. Ripples of power swept through the room, and suddenly, the boy coughed up blood. The old man stared in horror, asking frantically what had gone wrong. It hadn't happened in a long time. The grandson waved him off, insisting he was fine, claiming the cough had passed and he felt better. Rick frowned in the dark, realizing that wasn't pure marine martial arts. He analyzed the boy's condition, noting the technique was fundamentally flawed. It was wasting far too much energy, and the flow was unstable. It resembled the marine martial arts, but an unfinished version, likely the prototype the Sword Emperor used before he perfected the marine style. The boy clenched his fist in pain, prompting the man to make a drastic decision. He announced he would sell the inn to buy a legendary elixir arriving in the city soon. They would give up their home for the cure. The boy responded with fear, reminding him that acting rashly would only lead their enemies right to them. "Let them find us," the man said, staring menacingly at the air in front of him. "We will just find another place to hide." He swore he would do anything to save the child, his mind drifting back to that day years ago when he sat bleeding, holding a small baby in his arms. He had been running for 15 years. There were dark times when he considered abandoning the child, but that was in the past. Now, she wasn't just his master's daughter. She was his daughter, his own flesh and blood, and he prayed she would grow up healthy and happy. The scene shifted to their room. The man confirmed he had asked the broker to sell the inn, a process that would take a few days. They needed to vanish the moment they secured the elixir. The girl agreed, and as a candle flickered into existence, she stared at her reflection in the mirror, wondering if there was any meaning to a life where she had to lie to survive. She had to lie about her name, and even her gender. Hanging her head, she resolved that as long as her grandfather kept fighting, she had to endure being a boy. Meanwhile, the protagonist lay in his room. Rick realized he had uncovered far more than he intended. He pulled out a notebook, analyzing the relationship between the two and the conflict brewing on the horizon. He possessed the original book of the Sword Emperor. He read the strict command: if he ever met the Emperor's son or grandson, he must never reveal his identity. Even under the most brutal torture, he was to remain silent. Rick frowned at the text. He wondered what this useless pride was for. If the Emperor had returned alive, he would have lived in luxury and been hailed as a hero. Remembering the heat of the Imperial Palace, Rick mused that the Sword Emperor's legacy was destroyed. After the Emperor vanished, everything fell into absolute decline. 15 years ago, the entire lineage was wiped out in a mysterious attack. Rick visualized the burning diary in his mind. He read the Emperor's final words: even if his descendants suffered, he should not worry about them, but focus solely on defeating the demons. "I must destroy them," the text read. Rick stretched out his hand, thinking that he had read this book so many times he knew every word by heart. He knew the Sword Emperor better than he knew himself. Sighing, he muttered that the old man was too stubborn to ask even his own unseen disciple for help. The next morning, the old man appeared with a smile, noting that the boy looked incredibly refreshed. The girl replied that, strangely enough, that bitter medicine had actually worked wonders. The old man crossed his arms, and said it seemed he finally understood the correct treatment. He added that he had already received the deposit for the inn. With the elixir arriving soon, everything was falling into place. But the girl clenched her fist, thinking this was bizarre. She felt unnaturally light, no chills, no fever, so this was what it felt like to be truly healthy. She had slept deeply, imagining arms hugging her in a dream, enveloping her in a warmth that felt impossibly familiar. In the depths of the dream, she finally found peace, her strength slowly returning. But as she woke, frowning, she wondered if it was all a hallucination. Quietly, Rick slipped out of the room. He walked into the main hall, greeting the room with a grin. "Damn, that smells incredible," he said, eyeing the food. The girl rolled her eyes. "Just sit down and eat before it gets cold." She slammed the plate down, thinking, asterisk, what a slacker. Waking up at noon? Asterisk. Rick didn't seem to notice the judgment. "Looks amazing," he mumbled, already digging in. Hey, pass me another bottle of that bamboo wine, would you? She sighed heavily. Asterisk. Typical man, asterisk, she thought. Asterisk. First thing in the morning, and the only thing on his mind is alcohol. Asterisk. The old man watched him from the corner, frowning. Asterisk. He seems like a decent kid, but so lazy. Doesn't even know how to hold a sword properly. Asterisk. Finally, he spoke up. Son, what is it you actually do with your time? Asterisk. He's got the build for it. Asterisk. The old man muses. Asterisk. With discipline, he could go far. Asterisk. Rick looked up, mouth full. Oh, me? I dabble in martial arts. Just a little. A little is right, the old man grunted. He lowered his voice, a hint of nostalgia in his tone. You might not believe it looking at me now, but I used to teach young bucks like you, proper technique. He was only saying it because he hated seeing good potential go to waste. Rick just smiled, unfazed. I appreciate the concern, old-timer, but I've got my own training regimen. Rick had no interest in walking the beaten path again. The old man stared out the window. Fair enough. I'm nearly 70 years old anyway. Not exactly in the shape to be taking on students. I'm grateful you listened, the old man continued, but my fighting days are long behind me. Body just doesn't work like it used to. Rick hid a knowing smirk. Asterisk, liar. Asterisk. He knew the truth. This old man rose before dawn every single morning to train. Under those robes, he was as healthy as a horse and twice as dangerous. The old man glanced at the empty plates, shifting the mood. We'll be closing down the inn soon. You'd best start looking for new lodgings. Rick wiped his mouth and looked up. Works for me. I was planning to head to the next city anyway. I found exactly what I was looking for here. In his mind's eye, a blade materialized the heavenly sword. Asterisk. Locating it was easier than I expected. Asterisk. But then, the image shifted, revealing two formidable figures blocking his path. Asterisk. It's deep inside the sect's inner sanctum. Asterisk, he realized. Asterisk. Of course. Heavily guarded. Swarming with elite fighters. Asterisk. Asterisk. One wrong step on the perimeter, and you're dead. An amateur wouldn't last 5 seconds. Asterisk. He had been calculating this heist for days. Asterisk. First step. Recon. Asterisk. Suddenly, the inn doors burst open. Someone was screaming outside. The old man rushed over. What's going on? What happened? Bandits! The messenger yelled, gasping for air. They hit the supply caravan bound for the city. The old man clutched his chest, face pale. The elixir? Did they take the elixir? Everything, the man sobbed. They took it all, and slaughtered the guards. The old man grit his teeth, fury rising. Asterisk. No. I needed that medicine. Asterisk. He couldn't let them keep it. I have to go, he snapped, grabbing his gear. I won't let those animals get away with this. The messenger straightened up, adrenaline pumping. I'm coming with you. We can't just send an old man out there alone. The girl rushed out, grabbing the old man's arm. Grandpa, no. You can't go. It's suicide. She was terrified, but Rick just leaned back, smiling. He wasn't worried. He knew that even if there were 500 bandits, that old man would wipe the floor with every single one of them. Good luck out there, Rick called out cheerfully. The girl slammed her hand on the table, furious. Do you not care at all? That's my grandfather. He's my only family. He could die, she screamed. Rick sighed, bored. Relax. All this drama is unnecessary. Your grandfather is a monster. He'll be fine. What? She blinked, confused. How? How would you know that? Rick raised a finger, his expression suddenly darkening. Because I have eyes, he whispered. Suddenly, he spun around. In a blur of motion, he snatched a chopstick and flung it across the room. It pierced the wall, hanging with a dull thud. A wet groan echoed from behind the curtain, followed by the spray of blood. The girl froze, trembling. Who? Who is there? Spies, Rick answered calmly. They've been watching us this whole time. Guess they finally decided to make a move. The fabric ripped apart, and assassins dropped from the ceiling, weapons drawn. Get him, they screamed, lunging for the kill.